You know that specific feeling when you're walking home from work in the winter?
Oh, yeah.
It's maybe 4:30 or 5:00 p.m. The sun is gone. The sky is that bruised purple color. And the street you're walking on, which was just this boring gray slab of concrete 3 hours ago, suddenly changes.
Right. It's the witching hour for urban planning.
Exactly. It's like the city is changing its outfit. I mean, I was walking past a laundromat the other day, of all places. Middle of the day, I wouldn't have even noticed it. But at dusk, that humming neon sign in the window completely turned the sidewalk pink. The puddles were glowing. And suddenly I wasn't just walking home. I felt like I was in something, like a scene.
You feel like you stepped onto a set.
I did. And it made me wonder, why does my brain care? Why does a red light in the dark feel so much more significant than a white light in the day?
Well, it's a huge question. And it's not just you. Humans have this deeply ingrained, almost biological obsession with artificial light in the darkness. We are moths, effectively.
Stylish moths.
Very stylish moths. But to unpack why that laundromat sign made you feel something, we're looking at a fascinating piece of research today. It's a source material titled Neon After Dark, The Psychology of Urban Light.
This was such a cool read. And our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack the aesthetic, the psychological, and the cultural power of night city lighting. Because it basically argues that city lighting isn't just about utility. It's not just so you don't trip over the curb. It's about mood, psychology, and frankly, it's about control.
Absolutely. The central thesis here is that neon and high contrast lighting act as a form of emotional shorthand. We don't just see the light, we feel it. And the source breaks this down into three distinct layers. There's a biological wiring of our eyes, the cultural programming we've gotten from movies, and then this new trend of bringing that city energy into our own living rooms.
Which is a huge trend right now. Everyone wants their bedroom to look like a cyberpunk nightclub.
They do. But before we get to the cyberpunk bedrooms, we really have to start with the biology. Because the source makes this really interesting point about quiet versus loud environments.
Yeah, this stuck out to me too. The idea that during the day, neon is effectively quiet. It's dead.
It's completely dormant. Think about it. If you look at a neon tube at noon on a Tuesday in July, what do you actually see?
It's just industrial waste, almost. It's
Mm,
gray glass, it looks fragile, it's cluttered, it just blends right in with the brick and the steel.
Right. It has absolutely no visual weight. But the source argues that darkness acts as a filter. It deletes the noise. When the sun goes down, the concrete disappears, the grime disappears, and the only thing left is the light.
And this is where that visual wiring concept comes in. The source says our eyes are wired for contrast. But, that sounds a bit simple. Doesn't everything have contrast?
It does, but you have to think about it from an evolutionary perspective. For 99% of human history, if you saw a bright light in the pitch black, it was a very big deal.
It meant fire.
It meant fire, which meant safety and warmth. Or, if it was two reflecting points in the bushes, it meant eyes, which meant danger. Or maybe it was the moon reflecting on water, which meant resources. Our brains are hard-coded to prioritize high-contrast signals in low-light environments.
So when I see that open sign buzzing in the window, my lizard brain is actually lighting up.
It's spiking your attention, exactly. In a highlight environment, like a sunny day, your attention is diffuse. You're scanning everything equally. But in the dark, your attention becomes a spotlight. The neon sign dominates because it's the only signal in a sea of noise.
The source used the word cinematic to describe this, which I just love. It says neon defines the night.
And that's the key right there. It doesn't just illuminate the street, it curates it. It tells you exactly where to look. It creates a hierarchy of importance. The darkness deletes what doesn't matter, and the light highlights what does.
Which is a perfect segue to where we've taken this biologically. Because we didn't just stop at light is good, we built a whole cultural mythology around it. And this is the part of the deep dive that really got me, being a movie nerd, the urban romance section.
Yes, this is where we move from the biology into the psychology.
Yeah.
We've essentially been trained to feel specific emotions when we see neon. It become a visual shorthand.
It's that classic noir aesthetic. The source lists these specific tropes that are just burned into our collective memory. The lonely diner, the rain-soaked street.
Let's pause on the rain-soaked street for a second. Have you ever noticed that in almost every neo-noir or detective movie, the streets are always wet, even if it's not actually raining in the scene?
Yeah, they usually wet down the streets before shooting. I always just thought it was to look cool.
Well, it is to look cool, but why does it look cool? The source explains this beautifully. It says concrete becomes reflective. When the street is dry, the neon light just stops at the ground. It's harsh. But when the street is wet, the light is doubled. It smears. It distorts.
It creates that shimmering, dreamlike quality.
Exactly. It turns the hard, solid world into something fluid. And the source argues that this fluidity represents possibility.
That's the exact word that jumped out at me too. Possibility. Because day is for rules, right? Day is for work, traffic schedules. But night,
Night is for chaos. It's for chance encounters. Mystery.
the source also mentions the lonely hotel sign trope. You know, the no vacancy sign with the no flickering out.
Oh, total classic.
But it points out something weird. Even though that image is technically sad, I mean, it implies isolation and loneliness, we actually find it romantic. Why is that? Why do we like the aesthetic of a lonely city?
Because it implies a narrative. The source suggests that neon acts as the heartbeat of the city. If a sign is on, it means there is human presence. It means you aren't actually alone in the dark.
It's a signal of life.
It's a lighthouse. Think about that famous Edward Hopper painting, Nighthawks. You have the bright diner in the dark corner. It's isolated, sure, but it's also a refuge. That high contrast between the cold, dark city and the warm, artificial light creates a very deep feeling of intimacy.
Intimacy is definitely the right word. It feels like a secret.
And that's the romance of it all. The idea that in this massive, uncaring concrete jungle, there's a warm pocket of light where people are living out their stories. Energy and possibility.
So we have the biological hook with the contrast. We have the cultural hook with the noir romance and mystery. But then the source material takes a hard left turn. It jumps from the 1940s detective novel straight into the digital future.
The cyberpunk shift.
This is everywhere right now. You look at movies like Blade Runner or games like Cyberpunk 2077 or even just modern pop music videos. The whole aesthetic has completely changed. It's not red and warm anymore. It's glowing typography. It's pink, purple, acid green.
The palette has shifted, and the meaning has shifted right along with it.
Yeah.
The source calls this the high-tech, low-life dynamic.
Unpack that for me, because to my eyes, it just looks like cool, futuristic lighting. But the source says there's a real core tension there.
There is. It's the tension between the machine and the human. In those older noir examples we talked about, the neon was usually red or yellow, warm colors, incandescent human feelings. But in cyberpunk, the background is usually this towering, cold, metallic cityscape. It's oppressive technology.
So the dark background represents the system, like the digital world or the mega corporations.
Precisely. It's the cold night. And then you cut through that oppressive dark with these aggressive, hypersaturated electric neon colors. The source argues that in this aesthetic, the light represents a digital overlay on our humanity. It's human emotion fighting against the digital world.
That is fascinating because in noir, the light feels like a refuge you can hide in. But in cyberpunk, the light feels almost overwhelming. It's everywhere. It's advertising, it's data, it's information.
And yet, we still find it beautiful. Why? The source suggests it's because it represents energy. Even in a cold dystopia, the light proves that the city is alive. That contrast between cold tech and vibrant light is what makes the imagery visually unforgettable.
It captures the anxiety of the future perfectly.
It's that exact mix of, wow, this is beautiful, and wow, this is terrifying.
Which, if you think about it, is a pretty good summary of how we feel about technology in general right now.
That is spot on. We love the shiny screen, but we're terrified of what it's doing to us. And I think that brings us to the final and frankly the most relatable part of the source material. We've talked about street lighting, movies, and the futuristic cities. But now we have to talk about our bedrooms.
The domestication of the light.
This is the massive trend of bringing the night indoors. I see it all over social media. People are putting LED strips behind their desks, those geometric nanoleaf panels on the walls, custom neon signs right in their living rooms. It's a massive design shift. Think back 10 years ago, everyone wanted bright, airy Scandinavian minimalism. White walls, lots of sun, big windows. Now people are buying blackout curtains and turning their rooms into purple spaceships.
The source asks the obvious question here. Why do we want to live inside a nightclub?
It comes back to that psychological distinction between public and private light. The source notes that daylight is inherently public. It exposes you.
The sun sees everything.
It does. Daylight is the light of obligation. It's when you work and perform. But night lighting, that is deeply personal. By blacking out the windows and installing these colored lights, you are essentially rejecting the outside world. You're controlling the mood.
It's a bunker mentality.
In a way, yes.
Mm.
But the source uses a slightly more elegant term for it, experiential living.
I highlighted that exact term in my notes because at first it sounds a bit like marketing speak, but the explanation actually made a lot of sense. It's about treating your home not just as a functional storage unit for your body, but as a stage set.
Exactly. We are curating an atmosphere. People want their rooms to feel like specific locations,
Mm.
a late-night cafe, an art gallery, a film scene. If you feel like the outside world is chaotic, uncontrollable, and harsh,
Mm.
which, let's be honest, it often feels like these days, you can't fix that out there. But you can go into your room, turn the LED strips to deep sea blue, and suddenly you're in a completely different, intimate world.
It's total control over your environment.
It's mood regulation through lumen control, making a space feel intimate rather than just bright.
And the source points out that we physically couldn't do this 20 years ago. This is where the evolution of the medium, the actual technology, comes in.
Right. We have to talk about the medium itself. If you wanted that moody noir look in 1980, you needed a fragile glass tube filled with electrified pressurized gas.
Which buzzes and gets incredibly hot. And if you bump it with a vacuum cleaner, it explodes in your living room.
It was dangerous art. Traditional neon was incredibly fragile. But the source highlights the modern accessibility of this trend through modern LED neon.
Yeah, I was looking at the example they gave in the text, heartneon.com, and the functional differences are stark. It looks exactly the same, it has that exact same crisp glow, but it's just silicone and LEDs. It's completely durable.
It's a democratization of the aesthetic. That is the real takeaway here. Technology took something that used to be exclusive to commercial signage, the diner sign, the hotel sign, and it made it safe enough and efficient enough to put above a baby's crib.
It sanitizes the danger, but completely keeps the vibe.
That's a great way to put it. We want the romance and the urban spirit of the city night, but we don't want the grit or the risks of old-school glass. We want the cyberpunk look, but we want it to be safe and energy efficient.
It's the clean glow, as the source calls it.
And that technological shift is what allowed this entire psychological shift to happen. You simply can't have a massive cultural trend of bedroom neon if the technology is too dangerous to actually have in a bedroom.
So, if we zoom out and look at this whole journey we've been on today, we started with the biological fact that our eyes are desperate for contrast in the dark. We talked about how movies and the noir aesthetic taught us that this contrast equals romance, intimacy, and mystery.
And then how the futuristic cyberpunk aesthetic taught us that high contrast color equals the tension between humanity and digital energy.
And now we're using this highly accessible, safe, modern technology to basically paint our own walls with that exact same psychology. Lighting really isn't just utility anymore, it's atmosphere, it's identity. We are effectively living inside the movie.
We are casting ourselves as the protagonists of a very stylish, very moody film.
It leaves me with a final kind of provocative thought, something the source touches on thematically with all this talk of public versus private spaces.
Let's hear it.
If we are going to all this effort to design our rooms to look like cinematic film scenes and neon-soaked city streets, are we just trying to become the main characters of our own movies? Or, in an increasingly public and exposed world, are we just desperately trying to find a sense of intimacy by retreating into our own curated, glowing bunkers?
That is the tension, isn't it? I think it ultimately comes down to connection. Think about looking out a window at a city skyline at night. You see thousands of little glowing windows. You don't know who is in those rooms. You don't know their names, but you see the light and you know you aren't the only one awake.
It's a constellation of other people.
Exactly. By bringing that neon light inside our own private spaces, I think we're trying to replicate that feeling of the city. We're trying to feel connected to the energy and the heartbeat of the outside world, even when we're sitting completely alone on a sofa.
We're lighting a signal fire in the dark.
We are. And maybe we're just hoping someone else out there sees it.
Well, on that note, I'm going to go home and probably change my living room lights to a nice moody magenta.
Highly recommend it. It's good for the soul.
It really is. Thank you for diving deep with us today. Next time you see a neon sign flickering in the rain, take a second to really look at it because it's saying a lot more to your brain than just open.
It certainly is.
That's it for this deep dive. Keep looking for the light and we'll catch you in the next one.